Huh. All right, let's move on. So something I've been interested in, I I feel like I have socially I'm fine with people, but I think I have antisocial kind of tendencies. You know, I'm fine being around people. Logan and I joke about being allergic to small talk. Um,
You are defining me.
well, that's what I'm saying, and I see a lot of that in you. It's interesting.
Do you see me on the phone?
What do you mean?
I don't want to stay on the phone.
Right,
I just can't small talk.
right.
And it drives me crazy. The other day, Natalie called.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother was on the phone an hour and a half.
Well, I call mom and I get an hour and a half talking to mom. But I don't know if I call that small talk. I'm talking more just the, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm great.
The
You're
weather's
great.
fine.
Right. The just, and it's just polite conversation. I get it. But I don't have a need for that. And like at family get-togethers, you're fine going and sitting and reading your book or doing whatever. And if somebody's going to talk to you, but it's, some people are natural, like that's their environment, like that they
Jerry.
love that, right? They love that, going and being mom, talking to everybody and get to know everybody and including everybody, and it's just not in my DNA.
It's not in my DNA. I'm a closet introvert.
But it's interesting. So it's interesting to me that you choose a career where you have to do that. As a minister, that's community building is by definition which is kind of opposite to your personality, I think.
Now, do you know Myers-Briggs?
Yeah.
Okay. If you take Myers-Briggs and put it to ministers,
Uh-huh.
the worst kind of minister is the extrovert.
Why would you say that? Why?
Well, now, this is a lot of research into this and everything. They're manipulators. Now, if the goal is success and making a lot of money and all that kind of stuff, but what happens to those ministers usually?
What?
They fail miserably because they're hypocrites.
Right.
The ministers that really do ministry are usually closer to introverts than extroverts, because we're trying to be real. We're not faking it. Now, there's studies that go into this. Oftentimes, those who are really extroverts are sociopaths.
Right, extreme of that.
They're extreme. You need a balance. And so my balance came, I loved it. I love to preach, which is the most in front of people. But afterwards, do you remember me when I came home after preaching?
You're wiped out.
Totally wiped out. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't even want to talk to your mother, for a couple of hours. So,
so I won't get into so many things, but the preaching part, was it the studying?
all of it.
And something I've always appreciated, I think a lot of people, I think why you were as good at what you did as you are. I think a lot of ministers, this is how it is. How, look at me, follow me, I'm doing it right.
That's the extrovert.
And right. And you were, like one of my favorite sermons the one you did in Damascus, where you're talking about you on the road and honking the horn. It's my road, and you were always
Authentic.
and willing to share your warts, and showing I'm not perfect. I'm on this path trying to learn. It's a great way of leading by example. But did you like the studying aspect of it? Was that?
I absolutely loved it. My method took, people see me and they think, well, you just stand up there and talk. Well, that standing up there and talking took maybe 15 to 20 hours preparation. You first have to study it, research it, check it. It's called doing an exegesis of that passage to make sure that I'm not saying what I want to say, I'm saying what it says, and then translating that to people. And that takes a lot of time. And so basically I would memorize my research and put down what I knew I was supposed to say and get it as close as I could. But the end product was never what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And that's the Holy Spirit. I knew it enough that God or the Spirit could speak through me too. So I loved it.
Yeah. And then talking about the small talk aspect, right? So I think of Burley. Burley Shivels. You had to know him at a different level than I did, but I kind of think of him, his genuine happiness for just life.
And
Happy day. I hope someday to be at a point where I can just see the world through those and
that he was the most non-judgmental person
right.
I ever knew.
Right. But I could also see how that just could be as irritating as can be. You're having to just deal, not the happiness, but the nonstop just wanting to just, and you have a church full of people that want to small talk and want to just
Needy people.
Right. And do you think that were you the same? We obviously change over time, but the church, I'm sure, changed you. You're in having to deal with that. Did it make you more of an introvert towards the end?
Yes. Well, and how I know that is when I got sick, I realized it took so much energy to live that I became less patient with people.
Right.
And there were several times that literally, if I didn't excuse myself, I would have blown up.
Right.
I had to go into the office and, my secretary, do you remember Edith?
Somewhat.
A very, very nice person, but a very needy person. And she could drive me crazy. And I literally had to just close the door and just get away, And a lot of people were getting on my nerves. That's why I knew, I remember telling your mother in 2011, I've got to retire.
Right.
My goal was a little longer, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was close to burnout as you could get.
Do you think that was a sickness, though, as much
Combination of both.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if you hadn't got sick, maybe that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I might have. Yes, I agree fully. That's true. Because I was so sick. I mean, I had so many things going on. And what's interesting, and this ties in, it was all psychosomatic. Chronic lymphocytic leukemia is an autoimmune disease. Sarcoidosis is an autoimmune disease. Pulmonary embolisms happen because of stress. Think of it. I was in trouble, and I think it is, even though I had those stress releases of weightlifting and so forth, I would bury things. My deeper feelings. I would just bury them, and you can't. So keep working out. You got to let them out, but boy.
Well, at some point, JT talked about this briefly in his, in the deployment. if you think if you step back and think about the big picture and everything, it could be too overwhelming. So you kind of almost have to put your nose
Tunnel
down
vision.
and just get through it.